Hi all, me again. Now, in my last video, I showed you some of the finds that I found on my recent trip back over to see my mother in Tasmania. And one of them was this cash receipt book that I said that I would pull apart and use, and because I just love it. So I've done that very gingerly. The staples were old and rusty. Managed to get them off the cover, so I will use that for something else as well. But I managed to get these off and then peel back, and then I can just pull them out. Now, these are gorgeous. They're old. They're not that old. They're from the 40s. But, so I've pulled a pile of them out to use. Now, the ones that are written on, I will use those as actual ephemera in my journals. And there's quite a few that have been written on. Those that are not written on, most of those will be used to decorate. And so I will make clusters or ephemera or things like that from them. And I started playing around with them straight after the last video. And so I'll do that sort of thing with them. Now, that means that they can... I should have a journal here. I've got my ladies' journal that I've just finished. So, let's find a page. We'll pretend that that's a vacant page. So I could use this as a tuck, and I would glue it in that way and sit it in. Or I could use that actually in a pocket, like so. That's what I plan to do with these. Or they could be just attached, you know, like so, for something to slide into. So I wanted to run through how quick and easy these are. But then I had a thought. For those of you that don't have these, and let's face it, they are hard to come by. We're not all able to find things like this or be able to go and get things like this. I do have, now these are new, brand new, and they're just they're just cash receipt books or your restaurant receipt books. And I have those that I make as well. So we're going to do both because I want to show you, for those that can't come up with old ones, how you can turn these into these, okay? So first things first, let's just make a quick one of these. So we've just got a plain one. Now these are aged, they're beautiful. They've got my torn bit, they've got a little bit of a border and a little bit of writing. What I like to do is put a watermark on them. So, hang on, I've just got to put my heat gun down where it's been sitting on my desk. So I'm just going to pull out my stamping platform. You don't have to have a stamping platform for this. You can do it with just a normal acrylic block and a stamp. I like my stamping platform just to use because it's easier, and I've got just the little size one. It's a 6x4. So I'm going to sit this in here, and I'd like something along there. So I'll just sit that down, straighten it up a little bit, and I find flourish. I've got a flourish here. All right, so here's a little flourish that I'd like going right up the side. These flourishes just fit these receipts beautifully. So it's going to go all the way up there. So I'll just attach that to my block on this. Am I in shot? Yes. If I ink that up and just put it straight on, it will be a dark image, no matter what colour I use. So what I want to do is shadow stamping. It's second stamping, shadow stamping. It's been named lots of things throughout the year, or the years. So I just find a piece of scrap paper. All right, I'm just going to tear that in half. Right, so I've got a piece of scrap, and I'm going to sit that over because I know that it's already in the right place. If you're doing this with just a block, you can just stamp on that to start with. So I'm going to use a grey. The grey that I'm using is the VersaFine Clear. So I'll ink this up as normal. And I'm just going to stamp it anywhere onto that scrap piece. Okay. Pull that off. Now re-stamp it straight away onto my little receipt piece. What I've done is I've taken off most of the ink, so you can see the original of it. And now when I lift it up, I have like a watermark. So if I bring that up, can you actually see that on there? So it's just on the receipt. You can just see it. So it's like a watermark. So that's shadow stamping, or second stamping, I think they call it. I don't know. Years and years ago, it used to be called shadow stamping, because it's like a shadow. So there's your original. There's that one. And I like to do that quite often on some of mine. I'm just going to pop that away. I'll put it there so that I remember to put that stamp back. I'll pop my grey back over there. So there's my shadow stamp. I want another piece in that magazine that I got, which was a Cole's Funny Picture book. I must have realised that when I actually purchased it. All right, I'm going to just tear a piece off here. And I want this in here. So I'm going to tear down this. It's an old book, so it tears beautifully. I'm just going to tear around, and it's going to sit in here. Now, I want this a little bit grungier. So what I'm going to do is just with my brushed corduroy, just very lightly inked it. And instead of inking as we normally do, I'm just going to dab my edges. And all that does is just gives it a little bit of a dirtier look. And I'll show you in a second. So you can hardly see it, but it's just given it a little bit of a darker edge. Now, should have cleaned that before I started. Oh well. So this one's going to stick down on here, and I want something up there. So if we do exactly the same as the other one, I had a little bit of lace. Let's find a little bit of lace, which is sitting right beside me. Now I can let's find a wider lace for this one. Move you down in there. So I've still got my date and all the rest. I've covered up most of my other bits. I want something a little bit lacy down that bit. Let's have a look. I've got that one. Let's have a look at that one. Like so. Okay, and I've still got all this up here, so we can just do that, and very quickly we can actually stick that on now. No blue glue at the moment. I found these ones on clearance, of course, always a good buy if they're on clearance, and they're just the tiny little ones, but they're not blue. But my word, I go through them quickly. So somewhere about there. And we'll just stick that down, hopefully straight. Now, for my lace, of course, I'll use my fabric glue. A little bit of double-sided tape would work as well, depending on how thick your lace is. And I'm just going to put a little bead down the edge when it comes out. Here it comes. That's all I want. Close that before it comes up. And then this one, I'm just going to sit right on the edge. And this is where my fingers always end up with lots and lots of glue on it. And leave that to dry. Won't take long. Get all the glue off my fingers. And we will chop that. like so. Okay, what did I do with the pin? There it is. I'll pop that back in there so I know where it is. All right, you can see that that's already fading, as in where the glue line was, so it's already starting to dry. So I like it so that it's still tucked up like that. And then it just needs some bits on there. Now, I've got bits sitting around on my desk everywhere. Whether some of these are too large or not. Let's just go to the add-ons. Just the standard size add-ons. Just for something a little bit different. Let's have a look. I've got keepsakes there. Oh, that's a bit pretty. I like that in there. Let's have a look. These are just my odds and ends that end up going in of all sorts of different colours. And they're just usually when, you know, my mind's just sitting around and going, oh, I don't really know. What'll I do? And it's nice just to pick through this. I've got bits of paper, bits of tickets, little birdies. I keep going back to those birdies, don't I? I want Bessie's letter in there written, though. I don't want to lose my number, so I want something a little bit smaller than that. Probably not that small. I'd like that up the other way. I'd like that up the other way. Let's have a look. Too grungy, too grungy. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Let's just put all those ones in there because they were meant to be in there in the first place, but they were still sitting all over my desk. Right, so I'm just going to stick that down. For me, I'm happy with how that is. There's not that much on there, but I like that. So, because these ones are a little bit thicker, they're a cardstock weight, I'm going to actually use my liquid glue. Yes, which is working. And so I haven't used it for a while. It's been over a week, I think. Wow, that's a bit sad, Kylie. And I'll grab my tweezers for that one. And we'll put that C in there as well, just because we can. So that took all of, I don't know, what's it taken? A little bit of talking, of course. So 5-10 minutes. And this, again, there's something that you can have pre-done. Well, I better put the C around the right way. There's something that you can have pre-done, sitting there ready for journals in whatever style you do. So for me, these are always my style. You should know that by now. But how easy was that? Now, let's say you're not lucky enough or you haven't come across any of those sorts of things. How do you create that without having that actual vintage one? So, brand new receipt book. I'll just pull out a receipt. Right, and at the moment, that's stark white. And for me, you know me, doesn't work. So, paintbrush, little bit of tea. So it's just very cheap tea bags, teapot bags, just supermarket brand. And I just slop it, I literally slop it on. Because I want that difference in colour going through. Now, because I'm not certain of whether I'm going to use it as a pocket, a tuck, or an actual journal card type thing, I'm going to do both sides. so that the back is the same colour as the front. That makes sense? So, my very yucky. Now I'm going to lift that up, but I want it to scrunch a little bit, so I'm not overly concerned if I rip it a bit or anything else. And all I do with these is I will either, if I've got time, I will sit them aside to dry, or I will generally, mind the noise, use my heat gun and give it a little bit of a dry. Not much. Doesn't take much because they're such a thin paper already. You can see that drying. This is why I like my glass mat, because I can do all this sort of thing on my glass mat. Just turn that off. We'll give that a wipe. So that's almost dry. I reckon we can use this one. I did do another one just a while ago so that I had it pre-dried, but we won't have to, I don't think. As I said, they dry so quickly. But now what we've got is an older looking one. And there's a few more things we can do to it to make it even older looking. So don't burn yourself if you're using a heat gun. If you don't have a heat gun, that's fine. Just be a little bit more prepared than me and let them dry naturally. Sorry, I won't talk as loud now. So you can feel that's nice and dry. The reason I like the heat gun so much is that it bends it and folds it. So now it really starts to look like it's been in an old receipt book or it's been in someone's pocket. If we want, we can put all those angles in it as well. So back to my brushed corduroy. Okay, a little bit. And I'm just going to go around my edge like I did before. So we're not doing this. What I'm doing is curling my edges. I'll go slower. And I'm just taking it like this, just to give it that older look again. And I want to grunge it up, I suppose, but not too grungy. This is not a real grungy thing. I want it just to look a little bit older. And I'm now just going to wipe what's left in there very lightly across. I'm not pushing down. If I pushed down and went, I'd end up with that sort of thing. So it's just a feather touch lightly across. And it picks up where it's raised. Okay, so now if you can see where I've got all these colours going on. Let's say I want some creases in there because it's been in someone's pocket. I can do that sort of thing. So we're just going to bend it, give it a little bit of a crease, and run it down those creases. Okay. See how it's now looking really old. So if I go back to one of these, pull one of these back out, you can see what we started with to what we've got now. Okay, that's taken all of what, 5 minutes? See the difference? And I've got it on the other side as well. Now, for me, the only other thing I like to do, this is the edge that has come out of the book. So for me, that would have been a little bit darker. So this time I've got my other one, which is gathered twigs. So it's just a darker brown. It can be any darker brown. There's lots of different ones. There's walnut stone. There's gathered twigs. There's, I don't know. I can't think of any at the moment. And I tend to cross between the gathered twigs and the walnut stone. And so all I've done now is given that, so it's almost like it's been a burnt edge down it. So now I've got my brand new receipt looking like an old receipt. So once again, let's put a watermark on there. Let's go for a bigger one this time. Hang on. If I go flourishes, okay, back into my book. Oh, the first page. Let's do that one. Right. Sit you there. Let's see if this one fits. Let's go like that. So I still have my date. And it's going around that way. So that sort of thing. I'm just going to drop that heat gun on the ground. I'll pull out my stamping platform again. Get rid of that one. Sit you back there. And now this one, and I'll turn it this way to do it this time because it's easier with this size receipt. So we're going down there. And I know it's not going onto that side, so I can pop my magnet on that side. Work out where I want it. Okay. Take it over. Let it attach to that. I need a piece of scrap paper again. I had the other side here a minute ago, didn't I? That should cover it. So again, I'm just going to do the same, and I'll stamp on a piece of scrap. I'll use that grey again because I love this colour grey. Now you could ink up slightly lighter if you want, but I find that if I just ink up my normal ink, then it's a beautiful flourish, this one. Then I just get that nice soft watermark as I would have. Whereas if I ink slightly less when I'm inking, I never know really what I'm going to get. Yes, I'm happy with that. So again, we've got our watermark in there. Okay, so it's a little bit darker around these edges where I obviously didn't stamp as much, but you can see the difference. So pop this one to the side again. I can pop that grey away at this stage. All right, so once again, this is me, so we'll go back to that old book. And I've just pulled out one page. Let's go the letters. I'm thinking I'll take the whole thing out and then work out my size that I want. I'm just going to I'm just going to fold down there. So it's fairly straight down there because that will be down this side anyway, I'm thinking. So it's basically the same sort of thing. And I'm going to tear across there. And I'm going to tear in here so that I can still see that date bit. I'll tear this down a little bit further. It's not going to be this full length anyway, so let's have a look. That could go all the way over to here, couldn't it? And maybe down to there. If I sit that in there. I know what we'll find on this because it's larger. So, somewhere down here we go. I've got the darkroom door collage sheets. 6 sheets, one of each design. It's called Elegant Ladies. Came out earlier this year, not that, somewhere in the last 2 to 4 months, something like that. I don't know. This year has gone so quick that I just can't keep track of it. Now, I've got, that's my sheet that says, what have I got left in here? Don't really want those. I don't want it too dark, so I don't want those ones either. Circle might work. What have I got in these girls? She might work. If I was going the other side, she would work. She's actually got a letter in her hand, but I don't know whether I want that. Let's just have a look. So all I'm going to do is just very roughly, because most of my fussy cutting is very roughly, cut her out. I'm not too concerned if it's too far away or anything else, because it's the idea that you get, or the idea that I look at when I've done them. I'm not overly concerned with how wonderfully awesome they are cut out, if you know what I mean. So just roughly go around her there. I'll just take it to there while I work out what I'm going to do with that part. She could have been a bit larger. I don't want all of her. Do I just cut it down there? Drop that bit down. We might do that. And I'll just trim straight up there. We'll just get the big scissors. What do you reckon? I am such an awesome cutter, not with scissors. And we'll put her there, and we'll put her there. I want to see my letters. Right, she'll work. Now, again, and I'll show you why I'm never concerned too much with how I cut out. So I'm going into my archival ink. They're a little bit glossy anyway, so it means that I can tint them a bit. Not that one, that one. So just one of my little brushes, my archival ink, which is a permanent ink, picking it up, and I'm just going to go around my edge. So if I've got a white core in anything I've cut out, it will cover that, but it'll also make it look like it's closer to the edge. So I'm just going around in a little slow motion, circular motion, sorry, slow motion. And again, I like my glass mat. And so now she's got this vintage tinge all the way around her. And it takes away the look of where, if you look here, see, I've missed all this bit. I haven't bothered going into all of this, but when she's on, you don't really notice it. Okay? So we'll stick our letters bit on and we'll have a look. So very quickly run down that bit. Now to put this bit down, I'm going to actually sit her, whoops, in place of about where I want her, which was about there, underneath the receipt bit. Hold that up. And I want that in there, like so. Don't think that's straight, but it never is with me. I want her in here. Got to be something else sitting on my desk, not lace. What about some of my cheesecloth? There we go. I've usually got bits sitting around everywhere. And once again, I'd say that this is tea dyed because it's light. So, whereas if I coffee dye them, they're a darker colour. But I just want that. I'm going to take that bit off. Scissors. And my fingers are all sticky. That's going to go in there like that, I think. Right. Now, the easiest way I find to do this is I've worked out where that's going to go. So I need to lift her back up if I can. Leave that in place. I'm going to pop some double-sided tape on her. And I will find my little scissors. A bit there. A bit there. And a little bit on her head. And I will still use my glue, but I'm going to use my That will work. I'm still going to use my glue stick because I find with these they're so light that if I use any of my other liquid glues, occasionally they'll show through. So now I'm just going to glue this straight over my double-sided tape. Because I've got so much on there, it's easier than trying to take off the backing of the tape first. And this way I can, and normally I'll take off the backing and then glue around it, but because there's so much tape on there, I'm going to do it this way this time. Oh, my sheet's a little bit gluey. So now I'll just peel these ones off. And I wonder why my hands are always so sticky. Blah. And a little bit on her head. Now I know that this side's going down the side of here. Because it's got the double-sided tape on it, I've only got one go. I can't rearrange once I've popped it on. The double-sided tape will hold that cheesecloth in place and give it a little bit of extra oomph. I'm just going to push. I'm not going to actually squeeze too much because I don't want to rip her. How's that? So now what you've got is a slightly larger version of a vintage receipt. How easy was that? So just because you can't find any vintage ones doesn't mean that you miss out on that vintage look. They are so easy to reproduce. If you don't like them that big, I would probably, cut them down to that. I do like to put a date on them. I've got a little date stamp. Yeah. So I've got a little date one. It is a new one, unfortunately, so it only goes back to 1992. It was a good year. It was the year my husband and I met. So let's just put it on anything. So 15th of March, and I'll leave that bit blank because this is a vintage version of a receipt. I don't necessarily want 1992 on it, but I do like to have them a little bit brighter. So I'm going to use the claret in my StazOn, and I'll ink that up, and we'll pop that on like so. So it just gives it that little bit of pop when I pop the colour on. So sometimes I might pop down here where they have the signature. I will use these, and I'll quite often pop the signature in there as well, because which craft do you do have a stamp set with lots of numbers and all the rest, but they have some postal items in there as well. And they, hang on, postal. That's these. So you've got the 3 signatures and you've got the address, and they're from which craft do you do. The stamp set is I've got it over here. Because I've got it in amongst all these. WS80001. It's on their website. They post worldwide, as far as I know. They're an Australian company. But yeah, it's one of those beautiful stamp sets that have all your wonderful little numbers, and they have those signatures. So they work a treat. So how easy was that? You could not get easier. So we've just done 2 very quick ones. 35 minutes I've been on for. Oh, proud of myself. We've done 2 quick ones with an original, and then we've made a brand new one from just a book from the $2 shop. Look, as a vintage one as well. I hope you've enjoyed these. If you've got these, kudos to you. Lucky you. if you don't fret. Go and grab yourself a cheap receipt book and make them up. They are so easy to do. I hope you've enjoyed this. Until next time, happy crafting. Hope to see you again in a couple of days. I want to show you a notebook that I'm playing with that, again, I got from an op shop, and I want to do it in a completely different way. So hopefully in a couple of days' time, I'll have that one up. But I hope you've enjoyed these ones this time. If you have, don't forget to hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please come on board. That would be lovely. I'd love to have you. Thanks, guys. Bye.